This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We have breaking news tonight on calls to search for human remains believed to be in a landfill north of Winnipeg. Work there has been halted. Bartley Kivas will bring us details of that in just a moment. First, though, the news that led to this development. The daughters of homicide victim Morgan Harris, one of the women whose remains could be in that landfill, spoke again today in Ottawa. That's where CBC's Alana Cole begins our coverage.
I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Cambria Harris.
Powerful words from a grieving daughter.
We saw this happen with residential schools, and here you are, once again, creating unmarked graves of Indigenous peoples. That's wrong, and it needs to end. I'm angry. I am so angry, and I hope my people are too.
Cambria Harris's mother, Morgan Harris, is one of 4 Indigenous women police believe were killed by Jeremy Skibicki. Today in Ottawa, Cambria, her sister and First Nations leaders called for Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smythe to step down. This just days after police explained why they aren't searching for the remains of Harris and another victim, Mercedes Myron, at the Prairie Green landfill, despite believing they're there.
And these women deserve respect and recognition instead of being forgotten by the people of society. Being forgotten by our nation. If you can't help us, if you don't feel you are capable of finding these women, then you should step down and give someone else a chance to make the right decision and give us a resolution.
Police didn't respond to this call, but at a news conference Tuesday, Winnipeg police disclosed why the decision was made not to search. They say there's no way to know where to start, that the remains would be buried under heavy construction clay and thousands of loads of debris, and asbestos and poisonous gases would make it unsafe.
I don't think that the decision we made is the family's not happy with it. That part is clear, but I don't think we can safely conduct a search there.
The reasons given unacceptable to Long Plain First Nation Chief Kyra Wilson. The 2 women, Harris and Myron, are members of that community.
To me, the message you are sending to the greater community, to the non-Indigenous community, is that Indigenous women don't matter. That if somebody wants to target and hurt our women, that they can dump them in the landfill and no one will look for them.
Wilson says the technology to search exists. She says so does the ability to bring experts together to figure out a plan to do it. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, as we mentioned, operations at the Prairie Green landfill north of Winnipeg are now on hold. But there is no decision yet about an excavation. CBC's Bartley Kivas joins us now live in the newsroom. So Bartley, tell us what comes next. What's the latest?
Well, Janet, this is drone footage from Prairie Green earlier today when operations were still going. This isn't a City of Winnipeg landfill. It's a private facility in the arm of Rosser, where commercial and industrial waste are part of the waste stream. Police say a search here would not be easy. Tons of material have been dumped here since police believe the remains of those 2 women ended up here. Winnipeg's mayor says he met today with 3 Indigenous leaders. He says they asked for a pause and Waste Connections of Canada was willing to comply.
Really, it's to determine what the next steps may be, and that gives officials time to determine those next steps. I'm grateful that the arm of Rosser and the operator of that site have been reached and are certainly willing to assist in any way.
The mayor and the premier haven't committed to a search. They say there's a lot that needs to be learned before any other steps are taken.
Don't want to, presuppose what that may be, what comes out of that. So I think it's very important that, for right now, we take this pause and we get this right.
The mayor and the premier met this afternoon, and right after that, the chair of the Winnipeg Police Board and the mayor met with the police chief and senior inspectors to learn more about the complexities involved with a potential search.
Now we're seeing the community is asking for, additional resources to be provided to allow for a search to be conducted. And given the fact that the community has just come through the residential school system and the unmarked graves, we have to be sensitive to that.
Manitoba's opposition leader says all levels of government ought to try to make a search happen.
I take seriously technical considerations, feasibility, safety of people conducting a search. Has to be first and foremost. But when I look at a grieving daughter, a pair of grieving daughters, I look at grieving family members, I think it's important that we make the effort.
Now, while Prairie Green is closed, the city says its own landfill, the Brady Road landfill, can handle all waste except for contaminated soil. Back to you, Janet.
Thank you, Bartley. CBC's Bartley Kivas reporting live from the newsroom tonight. Now, we mentioned the remains of 2 murdered women may be in that landfill. The man accused of killing those 2 is also accused of killing a 3rd woman whose name is not known. Elders call her Buffalo Woman. A scientist says she believes emerging technology, and the methods that she uses might help learn the real identity of Buffalo Woman. CeCe Moore is a genetic genealogist from Parabon Nanolabs in the United States. Her work has helped solve numerous cases worldwide. The CBC's Marcy Marcusa spoke with her yesterday.
All across the country, we've been able to help identify Jane and John Does. In fact, we have a long-term contract with the state of Oregon, and we are helping them to identify their unidentified human remains that are in their medical examiner's office. It's with the Oregon State Police. They have about 100 sets of human remains, and we have been able to work on 39 of those so far with 30 positive identifications. And so we really love bringing answers to these families that have been waiting. It's always a sad thing, but the families are so thankful to be able to get those answers and get that resolution about what happened to their loved one. My work has always been about providing answers and resolution to family about their loved ones, whether it was for adoptees, donor conceived, or these types of cases.
If you ask what would Winnipeg Police need to provide someone with or you with, for example, to help you identify a potential suspect or victim, and to be clear, in this particular case, DNA, they said, helped in their investigation, but they will not go into specifics. But what you're saying is it's not so much if it's a hair works better than a piece of clothing, for example. It's not about that anyway.
It used to be that you could not use hair unless it had a root, but recently there's been great advances where you can use that rootless hair, that hair shaft, to still discover who these individuals are. So obviously I don't have inside information. I don't know what they have, but if they had blood, that would be optimal. But even if it's not blood, if it's saliva, if it's urine, if it's hair, all of those things could be analyzed in order to create this profile that we need, this profile of this unknown individual, compare it against those in these databases, and then little by little, you piece that family tree back together from that. And because we all have unique family trees, and except for our full siblings, then you can usually narrow it down to just one family. And if someone is missing, it becomes pretty obvious once you get there.
When you think about the case of Buffalo Woman here in Winnipeg, how might your work help to identify her? Like with what you've read, is it a fit for the type of thing we're talking about potentially, I guess?
Well, because I don't know exactly what they have, it's hard to address that. But if they have even the smallest amount of DNA from her, we absolutely can help identify her through investigative genetic genealogy. And so if they're struggling to determine who she is, possibly she hasn't been reported missing, which we see in the vast majority of the cases we work on, this will help to identify that immediate family or even that extended family she's from, and then they can go out and start talking to those individuals and determine who's missing from among them.
That's genetic genealogist CeCe Moore speaking with Information Radio's Marcy Marcusa. Boy, the news this week has been a lot to handle. Stories like this one can be triggering. There are several phone lines you can call if you need emotional support, including 211. There's also Gani Ganichuk. That number's on your screen, 204-594-6500. MKO is there as well at 1-800-442-0488 or 204-677-1648. You will find these numbers listed at the bottom of related stories on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Premier Heather Stefanson issued her State of the Province today, and it was noticeably more partisan than usual as she implored a Chamber of Commerce crowd to re-elect the PCs next year.
So there is a choice to be made, folks, and I'm confident that Manitobans will make the right choice next year. The right choice for our families and the right choice for the future of this great province of ours.
Premier Stefanson could not make any announcements today because she's not allowed to do that right now. There is a blackout in place on government announcements while the by-election is underway in Kirkfield Park. That by-election will be held Tuesday. It will give one party momentum heading into next year's provincial election. If the PCs win, it could show the government hope all is not lost. But a defeat could mean healthcare woes are hurting the government. The CBC's Ian Fraze met with 4 candidates looking to become Kirkfield Park's MLA.
I've been trying to fight this with the city for a long time.
As a city councillor, Kevin Klein was outspoken when he opposed decisions. If elected as Kirkfield Park's next MLA, he says he'll do the same, even if it means fighting the Progressive Conservatives, his own party.
It's not about me going to work for the party. It's about me going to work for the people of Kirkfield Park, and that is how I look at it.
In a time when MLAs are expected to toe the party line, Klein's comments are rare. He's also advancing policy ideas the party hasn't endorsed, like more advanced care paramedics.
He's very much running kind of his own campaign.
A political scientist says the strategy could pay off.
Given how unpopular the Tories are in Winnipeg, I don't think this Klein strategy of saying he's willing to get into fights with Heather Stefanson is a bad strategy, to be honest.
Kirkfield Park usually belongs to the PCs. In 2019, Scott Fielding won it handily. But Fielding resigned and the government's seen better days. His opponents want to contest this election on health care. Grace Hospital is ailing, from long waits to staff shortages. It's why Logan Oxenham is running for MLA.
And a lot of my friends and some family members who actually work within the healthcare system kept repeating over and over again just how dire the situation is.
The NDP held the riding from 2007 to 2016. To win it again, the NDP recently gathered some former Liberal voters and made a pitch.
When we split the vote, the Conservatives stay in power.
Oxenham says the message is being heard.
Voters in Kirkfield Park are smart. They understand what's at stake here.
The Liberals feel differently. While the NDP put up a corrections officer as their candidate, the Liberals are betting on Rhonda Nickel, a nurse.
I think if this were a corrections issue, I'm just going to say right now, Logan would be the person to vote for because I'm not familiar with corrections, right? So I truly believe that I am the best person if we're looking at healthcare.
Nickel spent 29 years at Grace Hospital. She wants to set up a hotline so staff can call her directly.
People are willing to speak to me openly and freely without any fear of repercussions.
The Greens say this by-election is a 4-way race.
We're running to win. We're not just a name on the ballot.
Dennis Bayomi says he's putting in the time campaigning. He finds voters are disengaged and a winter by-election isn't helping.
A lot of people are going to be staying home. We're probably not going to see even a 30% turnout.
Election day is Tuesday. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police have made an arrest in a 4-month-old homicide case. This past August, the body of an 83-year-old man was found inside a home in the 600 block of Cathedral Avenue. This week, a 60-year-old man was charged with second-degree murder. Police say the 2 men met through acquaintances and then the victim was assaulted. A landmark in Rennie, Manitoba has burned to the ground. It happened this morning. Rennie is on the edge of the Whiteshell. Flames and smoke started pouring out of the Rennie Hotel near Highway 44 around 2:30 this morning. The hotel has been closed for months. No one was inside the building at the time. Our weather specialist, Riley Laychuk, joins us now. And Riley, I can't help but notice that today was a heck of a lot milder than yesterday felt.
What a difference 24 hours makes. And it is just going to get warmer from here, Janet. The next 7 days, really, across southern Manitoba, looking very mild, in some cases even getting above zero. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But first, here is a look at satellite radar. Not a lot to see. A nice sunny day across the province once again today. A little bit of high-level cloud across the south again today, but really nothing to write home about at all. Nothing in the way of precipitation either. And that's the way things are going to stay, at least for the immediate forecast. As we look at Futurecast, getting into tomorrow morning, we start to see our cloud filling in once again. So tomorrow looking like it's going to be fairly cloudy day, some sunny breaks in the afternoon once again tomorrow, but you know, winds will be calm, could be a bit breezy in the afternoon. Otherwise, tomorrow is looking like it's going to be another nice day really across southern Manitoba. Across the north too, temperatures warming up. We'll talk about that in just a moment as well. Getting into Saturday, we do see some clear breaks later into the evening on Friday. Some snow moving through the north, and I stopped it here first thing Saturday morning because we do have a little bit of snow moving through parts of southern Manitoba. I do have a chance of flurries in the forecast for Winnipeg for Saturday morning. Other than that, this is more out to the northwestern part of Ontario, which will see the brunt of the accumulation from this. So really across the Red River Valley on Saturday, it's really just a dusting of snow, I think, if that, just some flurries falling. Sunday starts cloudy again, not much in the way of sunshine, but hey, you know what, temperatures are going to be nice and warm. Looking at our forecast snowfall accumulation, as I mentioned, really just a dusting of snow across southern Manitoba. A little bit more out to northwestern Ontario as we head to the later part of Saturday with 7 centimeters in Kenora. Really nothing to worry about out toward the west. In northern Manitoba, we are expecting some accumulating snow, though, as well. This coming through Saturday into Sunday, as you can see, up to about that 10-centimeter mark through Brochet. A little bit less the further east you go in northern Manitoba through the weekend. Minus 12 right now. Remember, yesterday we were in the minus 20s at this time. So the winds have shifted out of the northeast. Pressure is continuing to fall. And I wanted to take a look at our wake-up temperatures because, you know, the north has really been stuck in this cold air. Once again today, still at that minus 30 mark across Thompson over toward Lynn Lake and Churchill. But look at what happens as we advance into the morning tomorrow. Temperatures warm up through the night across northern Manitoba, much like we saw here in southern Manitoba last night. Waking up tomorrow morning to the minus teens in southern Manitoba. That warms up to the minus single digits of the afternoon tomorrow. Supper time tomorrow, minus 6, minus 8 across southern Manitoba. Much warmer across the north as well. Minus 18, mainly cloudy tonight in Winnipeg with some clear breaks. Winds remaining light as well. The winds pick up a bit through tomorrow, topping out at about minus 8 in the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Winds gust to 30 in the afternoon, and things really look up from there. We're expecting a high of minus 2. Chance of flurries on Saturday. Chance of flurries lingering into the morning on Sunday, and minus 1 for Monday under a mix of sun and cloud. We're looking at temperatures warmer than this even into the extended forecast. I'll talk about that later in the show.
The weather update is brought to you by Home Equip, your trusted local source for Pride Mobility scooters. From sales to rental and repair, our team is here to serve you.
The Brandon Wheat Kings usually get attention for their feats on the ice, but it was what some of these hockey players did off the ice that's now making news. 4 of the players came to the aid of a man they saw on the First Street Bridge in Brandon, a man who was experiencing mental distress. CBC's Marjorie Dowhouse has more on the story, and a caution, of course, this story contains distressing details.
Brandon Wheat Kings forward Calder Anderson and 3 of his teammates are being heralded as heroes. This all started back in late November. The players, Anderson, Jake Chiazon, Nolan Ritchie, and Ben Thornton, were on their way home from volunteering at Samaritan House's food bank when they noticed a man on the First Street Bridge.
At the end of the night, we were traveling home, going over the First Street Bridge, and we noticed there was a man in distress on the edge of the bridge, and so we thought it'd be a good idea to maybe help him out. We noticed he was standing in the middle on one of the light pole beams, and So, it was easy to tell that things weren't going great for him, and he was having some pretty tough thoughts. And we noticed a lot of other cars were driving by, not doing much about the scene. So we thought it'd maybe be a good idea for us to take advantage and control it.
What did he say to you? What did you learn about what he was doing there on the bridge that night?
So we kind of pulled up just to where he was, and I rolled down my window and asked if he was okay. And he informed me that things weren't going great for him, and his lifestyle wasn't great. And so that's when I got out of the car and I asked if we could get him any help, and he agreed. And once I said that, you could kind of see the relief on his face and the relax in his body, knowing that he had someone to care for him and to help him. And from that point on, he was relaxed and things were easier for him. The first responders got there in a hurry. It felt like maybe 15 to 20 minutes, but in reality, I think it was maybe only 5. They did a great job of getting there in a hurry and taking control of the situation. It's heartbreaking to see that, especially, on a winter night like that. And he was out there all by himself, and, it was pretty cold. And you never want to see someone in a situation like that. And I think, it was in our human nature, the 4 of us, to make sure that he was okay and that he was going to get the help that he needed.
What do you and your teammates think about the reaction to what you did out there?
We've been getting a lot of praise, and I think that's something we didn't expect at all when we first got back in the car after everything was said and done. Like I said before, we're super grateful and we're super appreciative that a lot of people are noticing this and bringing attention to it. But like I said before too, we're just humans. We're not heroes. We're not different than somebody else. I mean, it could have been anyone in that situation, and we were lucky enough that we were able to take control and help that man out.
Anderson says that the players received an update on the man's status a few days later. They learned that the man was taken to hospital, and Anderson says he was happy to find out that the man received care. Marjorie Dowhouse, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It's good to know people do care, right? There is help out there, and it's just ask for help if you know somebody who's struggling. There are resources like talksuicide.ca, the number on your screen. There's also the Kids Help Phone. They have a live chat counseling on their website. First Nations and Inuit Hope for Wellness helpline is also on your screen, 1-855-242-3310. This was the third and final day of the Assembly of First Nations annual Chiefs meeting in Ottawa. We'll have a full report on the decisions and discussions after the break. The Assembly of First Nations has united its position on child welfare compensation. Last night, Indigenous leaders voted to keep a $20 billion agreement it had reached with Ottawa. But the group also urged the federal government to compensate those who have been left out of the deal. Olivia Stefanovich reports.
A consent or agreement.
In a room full of political leaders, Ashley Bach brings the voice of children discriminated against by the underfunded, on-reserve foster care system.
It's a really big responsibility, and it's also really heavy burden to carry too.
Bach is seeking compensation for tens of thousands of people like her.
It means being able to put this into school, for example. It's going to mean putting money into building a home.
That government is not going to divide us, that we are united together and we'll take them on and we're going to work together and we're going to be so strong as a result of it.
The Assembly of First Nations united, passing a resolution late last night to support a $20 billion deal it reached with Ottawa earlier this year, while also demanding the federal government compensate those the agreement leaves out.
Canada's been saying they want a First Nations-led solution. Well, they just got it.
First Nations child advocate Cindy Blackstock filed the original human rights complaint with the AFN against Canada. Their battle continues 15 years later.
My hope is that the Prime Minister will follow through with what he committed, which is compensating the victims.
I just ran into Dr. Blackstock outside. She told me when I first talked to her a year ago that I was her 16th Minister of Indigenous Services. I hope that I'm her last.
The Indigenous Services Minister says the government is still committed to paying reparations.
I want to recommit to you today that the Government of Canada will stay with you.
But she didn't promise any more money for more than 20,000 people excluded from the multi-billion-dollar agreement.
We're trying to get to a deal, and I think that we're very, very close.
They say no money will make up for a lost childhood, but it's a start.
The gesture of government to compensate and recognize the hurt of our children, I think that means something.
The Canadian Human Rights Tribunal recently sent the $20 billion deal back to the drawing board, a decision the federal government is challenging, causing another delay before compensation can flow. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Iran has executed a prisoner who was arrested during the protests that have been rocking the country. Mohsen Shakari was 23 years old. He was arrested and accused of blocking a street and injuring a security officer with a knife. He was arrested just days after the death of Mahsa Amini, who had died in custody. She was arrested for not wearing her hijab correctly. Now, this is the first time the death penalty has been used since the protests, but human rights groups say that 470 people have died in the protests. There are worries other protest detainees could also face death sentences. American basketball star Brittany Griner has been released from Russian custody, and she's headed back to the United States. This came in a prisoner swap between Moscow and Washington.
She's safe. She's on a plane. She's on her way home. After months of being unjustly detained in Russia, held under intolerable circumstances, Brittany will soon be back in the arms of her loved ones, and she should have been there all along.
In return, the U.S. has released Victor Bout, a convicted Russian arms dealer. The U.S. had hoped to include detained former Marine Paul Whelan in this exchange, but the White House says it was clear Russia would not agree to that. Griner was arrested in February at Moscow airport, where cannabis oil was found in her luggage. She pleaded guilty, saying she had brought it in by mistake. She was sentenced to 9 years and had been sent to a penal colony. The Canadian Food Grains Bank, based here in Winnipeg, says it could be the worst famine Somalia has ever seen. 5 rainy seasons in a row there have failed, not bringing the moisture that crops, wells, and livestock so desperately need. An estimated 1.3 million children under the age of 5 are now suffering from acute malnutrition. Earlier today, I spoke with a local Somalian Winnipegger to find out just how the Winnipeg community is handling the news. Abdi Ahmed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Janet.
What are you hearing from people you know back at home in Somalia?
Janet, I'm hearing that the situation is there and people are really going through the worst of hunger and thirst that they have seen. In fact, the worst of that kind of a situation that has happened in my lifetime that I'm aware of in my time thinking about what I know. A lot of folks lost their livestock. If you think about Somalia, most of the people are either seasonal farmers or depend on livestock, goats, sheep, and camels, and the nomadic pastoralists traveling from place to place for pasture with the animals. And can imagine 5 seasons of no rain, and those livestock depend on pasture, and the pasture is completely depleted. So people have lost their livelihood. The animals are all perished. The farmlands have dried, and people have nothing to survive on. Forget about food. Even water to drink is not there. So people are dying in large numbers, especially children, young kids who have nothing to eat, are malnourished. People are walking long distances to get to a place where they can even just get a glass of water, and walking days. I've heard of a woman who walked with her kids, 6 kids, for 18 days and lost 3 of the children on the way, and said she found many, many, many other kids who died on the way, and people leaving their kids just barely on the way because they just need to save with run away with the ones that are remaining just to get them into a place where they can get to eat something or drink something.
The story you're telling and the images we're seeing are absolutely heartbreaking. How do you handle it when you hear things like this?
It's difficult. I have 3 young boys between the age of 7 and 15. Those could be my kids, being Somali and having lived in that lifestyle in my previous life. Those could be my kids today, and it's really heartbreaking. I have family there. I talked to my brother the other day. I have an extended family exceeding 100 people over there, and they're in a similar situation. My brother tells me they have lost all their livestock, their farmers tried, they have nothing to depend on. But the thing is, people like my brother and others who have people in the diaspora who live in these countries are able to survive on the little that we send because we share what we make here. But there are those who don't have nothing, who have nobody to depend on and have no connection to anywhere, and they are literally dying. The images that I see and what I hear from my family is quite disheartening. I have never, ever imagined the kind of situation that those people are living in.
If anyone listening right now, watching, wants to help, what do you suggest?
I think there are quite a number of organizations that are on the ground trying to support the situation. In Winnipeg here, we have the Canadian Food Grains Bank, which is supporting one of the worst affected communities, and they're here. There's, donating or sending what we can to the local communities over there to be able to support. Those who will like to support, and I will really urge, it does not make a difference whether you donate $1 or $10, or it does not. There's no difference whether you donate $5, $10, because it changes lives. Whether you donate $1, $5, $10, or even $20, $100, it still changes the lives of the people. So people can go to foodgrainsbank.ca/Somalia, and there's a button there to donate. We're encouraging our community members to support our local organization here that's on the ground supporting the people.
Abdi Ahmed, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Janet.
CBC weather specialist Riley Lachek has our Manitoba forecast after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. A program called Sisler Create recently partnered with our CBC Creator Network to produce videos, which we will be sharing with you. Some young animators, I should say, from Sisler High School made a 30-second animated short, which won top honors in an international film contest. They placed first among students and 7th overall among 300 entries from 80 schools in 20 countries. Impressive. Tonight's video by their classmates celebrates that victory.
We had a watch party at school at like 5 o'clock, and we were all together, we were huddled together. When they said it out loud, we were like, what did he say?
And the winner of the Best High School Prize is from Sisler High School, Team Clown.
My name is Sierra Cancino. I was the storyboard artist and an animator for our short.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Chow. I was the background artist for our short.
Hi, my name is Sam Bolaño. I was a concept artist and animator for the short.
Hi, my name is Gian. I was an animator for this short.
Hello, I'm Francesca Musni. I was an animator and compositor for this short.
So the 24 Hours Animation Contest, I've been running every year since 2002. I give out a theme that basically helps the students begin their production, and then they have 24 hours to make a 30-second animated film based on the theme. And the theme this year was, what is life going to be like in 100 years? Allowing people to kind of think outside of current events and give them a taste of something new.
So our submission for 24 Hour, it's titled Superfluous, and it's about a guy who's getting ready for his date. So as he's going on his date and getting ready, we added futuristic elements, and then we wanted to like play on the fact that now there's a lot more like plastic and packaging. We imagine like a future where it's very much about consumerism.
We were in call for most of it, and our calls are like separated into like, oh, if somebody's in a snack break or is like sleeping right now. Our cameras are open the entire 24 hours, I think we work like really well together because we're just like so used to like the pipeline, and we're so used to each other. Like we know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we've been with each other for like 4 to 5 years now.
They found a team that worked for them, and they worked like a well-oiled machine, and they figured it out the first year. They said, we got this, and they came back the next year and did even better.
In terms of motivation, what really helped is like our group mindset. I think like we're just a generally positive, cruising kind of team. It was also probably because like we really liked what we were working on. Like we chose like a very like uplifting, kind of like very fun, like a lot of cuts.
Making a film in 24 hours, it really shouldn't be done, you know, to be honest. It takes, 3 to 5 months in the real world to make 30 seconds of animation. But for some reason, students really thrive on it, and they jump to the occasion.
What was rewarding is just the improvement that we've made. Like in just 1 year alone, just like our animation, our teamwork, everything just come together, and it's just like so much better.
It's also the fact that we accomplished all of the goals that we set for ourselves. Even the goal of like wanting to be placed first, as well as like top 10 against like colleges, we also got that.
Not only were they finishing on time or even ahead of time, but they were placing Best High School, but also like this year the team won 7th in the whole competition. Like out of 300 films from 80-something schools in 20 countries, there's a high school there that can be just as strong as a college team. And that is a big deal.
Yay, well done, Sisler Create. We're going to be highlighting more student works over the next few weeks on all our platforms. You'll find more on this story, including the names of all the filmmakers who brought us the work we just saw on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. Click on videos and look for Project POV Sisler Create. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us once again on this lovely evening that's getting a bit milder.
Yeah, a lovely day today across the south. We are going to see our temperatures warming up as well, minus single digits tomorrow across most of southern Manitoba. Get to that in just a moment. Let's take a look at the big picture, though. And once again tonight, I don't have a lot to show you across Western Canada this evening. It's been a pretty calm day weather-wise. Mainly sunny skies, a little bit of cloud cover through southern Manitoba. We are seeing a bit more cloud cover out to the west into Alberta right now, and even a little bit of snow along the international border in British Columbia. But other than that, really not a lot to see in Western Canada. Temperatures look a lot different than they did last night as well. We're still seeing some of these cold minus 30s in northern Manitoba, minus teens right now into Saskatchewan, minus single digits into Alberta at the moment. So, you know, a fairly comfortable day, more seasonal temperatures. Minus 12 at the airport in Winnipeg right now, also minus 12 downtown. And really that's where we're sitting across most of the southern part of the province. A bit cooler out to the west right now, minus 15 in Melita, minus 18 in Swan River at the moment, and a minus 20 in Barons River. Things still a little bit on the cool side in northern Manitoba. As I mentioned, still seeing some minus 30s, near minus 30 in Gillam at minus 29 at the moment, minus 27 in Norway House. Things do warm up tonight, though. In northwestern Ontario, temperatures around that minus 15 mark. We'll start to see some clouds building in, so we'll see a mainly cloudy evening tonight, some clear breaks. That goes for southern Manitoba as well. Partly cloudy skies this evening, minus 18 in Winnipeg, down to minus 16 in the southeastern corner of the province under partly cloudy skies. Minus 18s, minus 17s in the southwest, partly cloudy as well. And then these temperatures in northern Manitoba, these are more like your evening lows this evening. We will see temperatures really start to warm up by the time we get to tomorrow morning. So minus 31s, that's your temperature right now really for Thompson and Churchill. Things do warm up through the night. We'll get up to minus 12 tomorrow, which is fairly seasonal for this time of the year in northern Manitoba. Minus 8 in the Pas and Norway House under partly sunny skies tomorrow. Mix of sun and cloud as well in southwestern Manitoba. Minus 4s for Dauphin and Brandon. This is above seasonal for this time of the year. We should be around minus 8, minus 9 at the moment. So enjoy the day tomorrow. A little bit gusty maybe in the afternoon, but nothing really to complain about too much. Minus 4 in Emerson, minus 8 in Winnipeg tomorrow, minus 4s out to the southeastern part of the province, and in northwestern Ontario, much the same as well. Minus 2s, minus 4s, partly cloudy skies. We have temperatures hovering around the 0 mark in your 7-day forecast. I'll have more on that coming up in a bit.
Thank you, Riley.
No problem.
Some fresh images to share now of Hawaii's Mauna Loa volcano as it continues spewing gas, ashes, lava with no end in sight. There had been concern when lava started flowing toward a main roadway that links both sides of the Big Island. A shutdown would have affected access to the research observatory near the summit, which is home to some of the world's most advanced telescopes. But scientists now say there's no imminent threat from this lava to the highway. Mauna Loa is the Earth's largest active volcano. It erupted back on November 27th after being quiet for 38 years. Amazing. Don't forget to subscribe to our CBC Manitoba YouTube channel. If you ever miss a newscast or you want to see something again, you can watch it there whenever it's good for you. Londoners react to the new Meghan and Harry documentary series after the break. The highly anticipated documentary Harry and Meghan debuts today on Netflix. It's a 6-part series that promises the full story about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their relationship and their estrangement from the royal family in their own words. CBC's Margaret Evans has more on reaction from London.
Londoners enduring a cold snap just as the Cold War between Harry and Meghan and the royal family they left behind heats up. An opportunity, say marketing experts, for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to shape their own narrative.
They have been through quite a difficult time with the British media because there have been quite a lot of negative stories.
But if people were expecting a gloves-off, drag-down, name-names fight, they won't find it here, at least not yet. It's a much more subtle affair. Here's Meghan on a first impression of William and Kate, now the Prince and Princess of Wales.
I guess I'd started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside.
There are no bombshells like the allegation of racism against an unnamed member of the royal family made in their Oprah Winfrey interview. But Harry describes what he calls unconscious bias within the royal family, pointing to a lack of sympathy for Meghan.
And some of the members of the family was like, right, but my wife had to go through that, so why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
If direct aim is being taken, the target is just as much the British tabloid media as the monarchy.
And the level of hate that has been stirred up in the last 3 years, especially against my wife and my son, I'm genuinely concerned for the safety of my family.
Critics dismiss the Netflix series as just another chapter in a long continuum of morbid fascination with the royals. Not surprisingly, the tabloid press, so often accused of fueling it, doesn't readily accept that racism forced the Sussexes to leave the UK.
There was a great outpouring of joy for this couple. I think the real problem is she expected something quite different. She expected it to be much more Hollywood, much more glamorous.
But others say the couple have opened up a long overdue discussion.
There was a blatant racial harassment of a biracial woman that has entered into the highest level institution in the United Kingdom.
King Charles was out and about, business as usual. There's been no official comment. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
Canadian superstar Celine Dion has revealed she's suffering from a rare neurological disorder, one that's impacting every aspect of her life.
Recently, have been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome.
This condition causes sudden severe muscle spasms, and Dion says it interferes with her ability to sing and also to walk. Stiff person syndrome affects only about 1 to 2 people in a million. The Quebec-born singer says it's been very difficult to face her health struggles and to speak openly about them. She's had to postpone a European concert tour, which was set to start in February, but she is still hopeful, saying she plans to return to the stage by August. Your 7-day forecast and your daily lift as we show you a beautiful shot of our city from our drone team are still to come, so stay with us. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News.
Normal high for this time of the year, -9. And you know, for the next 7 days, we are going to be above that, not only in Winnipeg, but across much of southern Manitoba. So a -8 tomorrow. Could see some flurries through Saturday into the early part of Sunday. Then more sunshine on the way for Monday before we start to see a bit of a change again. High of 0 with perhaps some snow on Tuesday, and then down to -5 and cloud cover for next Thursday. So warm stretch of weather on the way. What happens, though, when Donner, Blitzen, and the rest of Santa's reindeer have the day off?
Does Santa call an Uber?
Maybe.
Maybe he does. We have the answer for you in our Daily Lift. Oh no, much cooler ride. All right, Santa, jolly old St. Nick, hitching a ride in a police helicopter, and then, wow, so cool, rappelling down the side of a children's hospital. This is in Los Angeles. This is an LAPD event which has been going strong for more than 30 years now, bringing holiday cheer to more than 25,000 families. I want Santa to do a helicopter drop in.
Drop him down the chimney?
It's a children's hospital, you know? They could have laundry down there or something. It's cooler than the magic key I thought he used. Okay, well, good night.